What's up, everybody? We're back.
Yeah! Hey, welcome back to Metalhead's Journey. Hey, we've made it back around to, I feel like it's been about 3 years since we've done this list. But we're back to the top 5 of the big 4 of prog metal. And just to recap for you guys out there, the big 4 of prog metal, Dream Theater, Fates Warning, Symphony X, and Queensryche. So we are back around to Dream Theater. Feels like we just did Dream Theater because of Parasomnia, but that's okay because we're back on the list here and we're doing the album Awake. So we'll do a quick history of the band and the album. We'll get right into it here. Dream Theater formed in 1985 as an American prog metal band from Boston, Mass. The band was originally formed under the name Majesty by guitarist John Petrucci, bassist John Myung, and drummer Mike Portnoy while attending Berklee College of Music. Vocalist James Labrie was hired in 1991, and after a couple other keyboardists didn't work out, Jordan Rudess joined the band in 1999. Dream Theater has released 16 studio albums, including their most recent, Parasomnia, which came out this year. They've sold over 12 million records and have won 1 Grammy. Awake, released in 1994, is a seminal progressive metal album that showcases the band's technical prowess and emotional depth. As their third studio album, it marked a darker, heavier shift from its predecessor, Images and Words, blending intricate instrumentation with introspective lyrics. This is Grok's review of this record, by the way, or just quick paragraph. Tracks like six o'clock, Caught in a Web, and the epic Space Dive Vest highlight the band's ability to fuse complex time signatures, virtuistic solos, and melodic sensibilities. Despite internal tensions and the departure of keyboardist Kevin Moore post-release, Awake remains a fan favorite, praised for its raw energy and ambitious songwriting, cementing Dream Theater's influence in the prog metal genre. So, Dave, this has been one of your favorite bands for the last 25 plus years.
Yep.
The Mike Portnoy is back in the band now, as we got a chance to talk about for Parasomnia. But walk me through just what was the first time you heard Awake? What was the first time you felt about it, and how you feel about it now, 20 plus years later?
So, I've said this before, but I'll say it for, I guess, posterity, if that's the right word to use here. My first album that I was exposed to at Dream Theater was 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence in 2002. And that... I bought that very shortly after that record came out, and then subsequently just started buying all their previous records. So this was among those. So I probably heard this in or around 2002. And I've always felt, because this also has Kevin Moore, as you mentioned, who was on Images and Words. So it's the same lineup across those 2 records. And I've always felt like Awake was kind of like the other half of Images and Words when it comes to the overall feel. I've always felt like this is just a heavier version of what Images and Words was. So for me, I've always been partial to Awake in that sense. And obviously, I get it. Images and Words is widely considered their high watermark, their, if the album that kind of represents them as a band and all that good stuff. But for me, I've always been more partial to Awake and just the heavier side of things. And I just I prefer the heavier guitar tone that is more prevalent on this record than Images and Words is. This just feels more like a full, a closer to a metal record. Whereas I think Images and Words is more of a prog record, if that makes sense, at least in my mind. But I really like this record a lot. I've jammed it, 100 times from start to finish, maybe more probably. It's another really strong showcase of James Labrie, because this is still when he was in peak form. In my opinion. So yeah, I think this record is a great showcase of what Dream Theater is all about, and this is still before they started doing the really, really long songs. I know there are a few on this album, but there's a lot of songs on here that are right around the 5-6 minute mark, which I think is easier to digest for a lot of folks.
Yeah, and some of that's kind of refreshing. compared to some of the future albums. Jason, counterpoint. How do you feel about this
Counterpoint.
record?
Well, where Dave has listened to this at least 100 times, I listened to it 5. And look, the first day I went through it twice. I really was put off by the album. Really, I think, and I text Josh, and I think I've just come to the realization that I don't like prog. Shocker of the sitch. And
If it's in the metal genre, it's a good chance Jason doesn't like it.
Chance, so probably don't like it. I do appreciate the heavier riffs in this album. The main issues that I had was some of the songs that I don't like, I really don't like at all. That's not been the case with some of the other albums. So while this album is probably going to score relatively close to some of those other ones, this one for me had lower lows and a small cluster of highs. While I didn't hate this album, I'll never listen to any of these songs again.
All right, fair enough. Jonah, as a newer Dream Theater fan like myself here, what did you think?
I really liked it.
First time hearing this record?
Yes, from start to finish at least. Obviously, there's a couple of songs that I am a little familiar with, and I think did they play The Mirror when we saw them live? They did, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously, I was most familiar with that one because I jammed it a few times after we saw them, based off of their set list. But yeah, so speaking of being a newer Dream Theater fan, as such, you know, I'm more familiar with some of their newer albums, especially the heavier ones. You know, we reviewed Train of Thought. We reviewed their latest album, and I really, really love those albums. They're heavy. They're the writing style on those albums is exactly my jam. So, and both of those albums scored over a 9 for me. So I absolutely love those albums. So, given that, when I came to this one, I guess maybe I don't know if my expectations were different or should have been different, but at first it didn't quite click with me. But obviously, the more I listen to it, the more I like it. And I think this is going to be another one of those albums that the more I listen to it over the years, I think everything will grow on me. So my score may reflect that initial trepidation at first, but this is a really good album. You know, you talked about it in the intro. The technicality and the complexity that's on display here is really solid. You know, it's kind of what we come to expect from Dream Theater. Guitar tone is sick. It's a little dark, a little gritty. Labríe's vocals, I think, are amazing on this album. He's got a lot of range of emotion, and you know, he even gets a little, you know, obviously he doesn't scream or anything, but he's got a little bit of grit in his voice in some of these songs. Yeah, so I really liked it, and you know, I said this before, but after seeing him live, I've come around to James Labrie as a frontman and a vocalist, so that was really cool for me as well. Given that this is also the last album with their previous keyboardist, Kevin Moore, I really liked what he did on this album keyboard-wise. There's a lot of, like, I forget which song it was. I made a note about it, but it's in Innocence Faded. It's almost got like a Boston vibe with the way he layers the keyboard in with the rest of the song. So yeah, I mean, just all of that mixed together. It's a very 90s sounding album, like the way it's mixed and like the effects and stuff that they use. So I really liked that. Overall, I had a really good time with the album. It's not my favorite Dream Theater album by any means, but it's really solid, and I can see my score definitely going up after, you know, living with it for a lot, you know, for the rest of my life, essentially.
Yeah, we do. So the way we end up doing this show a lot of times is we do like one album review a week, or we do the bracket a week or whatnot. So sometimes, depending on flow of life, you only get to spend a week listening to these albums. I got a chance to jump ahead, fortunately, here I don't know, about 6 or 7 weeks ago. I guess it is now. And so this is one of the albums I got a head start on. And I mean, dude, from day one, I was like, okay, yeah, there's some bops on this, man. Like there's some really good songs on this album. But I was having a hard time like getting through the first few songs just from a time standpoint. So then probably about a month ago, I was able to finally sit down and really just listen to it and spend a good amount of time with it. And I mean, I knew right away, like, I love this record. You know, I sent Dave a text the other day that I was going to keep offline, but I just, you know, I apologize today for talking so much crap about Dream Theater over the years, and I just didn't understand, man. And look, I think with a catalog of 16 albums and me hearing probably 5 or 6 of them now, I still don't have a full grasp, and I'm sure there's going to be a good amount of albums in there that probably aren't what I'm looking for. But I think the list we have here of the top 5 Dream Theater records has not disappointed yet. Parasomnia is fantastic as well. Yeah, man, I really struggled with where to score this record compared to Images and Words. Images and Words was really the first Dream Theater record that I heard that I was blown away by. And you can certainly hear a lot of stuff that carried over from that record to this. But it is a bit of a dirtier record. I feel like in some cases it feels like a little less produced, or just maybe dumbed down a little bit. Like the first Images felt so clean. And this one there's some moments in it that feel, and it's probably by design, I'm sure, because this band is incredibly meticulous with everything that they do. So yeah, and it didn't hurt my enjoyment of the record, but overall, this record's awesome. It's a heavier version of Images and Words, and I really enjoyed my time with it. MVP wise for me, you guys have referenced him a couple of times. James LaBrie just bringing the heat on this record. What an unbelievable vocalist. Adding that raspiness, that grit to his voice on this album, where Images and Words is basically just all candy the whole time with how good his vocals are. This adds a little bit of dirtiness to it. But I also had LaBrie on Images and Words as well. So as critical as I was of his live performance when we went and saw him, I'm a huge James LaBrie fan. So he's the MVP for me. Jonah, who you got?
It's going to be the same. I alluded to it before, but it was a standout performance for me. His vocal and emotional range throughout all the different songs, and there's a lot of range here. Like, there is some candy as you mentioned, but there's some good raspy vocals in there too. So yeah, it was LaBrie for me. Not to say anything negative about the rest of the band. We all know how amazing and technically sound they are, but it was LaBrie's vocals that really stood out to me.
Yeah, Jason, what you got?
I went John Petrucci. Part of the reason why I'm not a big fan of this style of music is most of the time the singing aspect of it is just not a style that I like.
Too good, right?
I mean, look, he's definitely talented. It's just I'm just not a fan.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Maybe I asked you this before. Maybe it just dawned on me now. But if Kurt Cobain sang for this band.
Oh no, it's not that. It's not a. I mean, Kurt Cobain was never noted as a great singer.
If John Lennon or Paul McCartney sang for this band,
yeah, sign me up.
Okay,
it's all of them.
Make a difference for you.
It is all the vibrato.
If they trotted Phil Anselmo out here,
yeah, maybe that too.
Okay.
It is literally the vibrato in this style of music. I can't stand vibrato.
So like singing, got it.
No, it's okay. I'm going to give you an exact meaning of what I'm talking about. So Caught in the Web.
Great song.
Basically, it says I'm hanging by a thread.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
I imagine if it was sung that way, like, did you actually have? I
wish I was dead.
Did you actually have the audio turned up, or was that you just singing in the car?
No, it's just every last word is exactly the and it's just a rhyming word. It's dead, head, thread. I mean, it's fucking awful. I don't know how to explain this, but I don't like vibrato, and so it doesn't make any difference if it was country music or a great song from the 50s or 60s or 70s. I don't like that style. And when
it's not a style. It's not a style. It's
every other word is like that. No, it can be singing. It doesn't mean that I have to like it.
I didn't say you had to like
it. Jason also apparently doesn't like monetization.
I mean, how many people are going to watch this? 50?
So, I mean...
Dream Theater brings the boys to the yard. We'll have at least like 120.
No.
Anyway,
I'm just saying we go through this. Look, we go through this every time.
Yeah,
I don't ever ever besmirch his ability to sing. I just don't like the way it is sung. It's no different than if you gave me Morbid Angel and be like, well, I mean, that's pretty talented. No, it's not. It's not to my ears. It's not music to
Yeah.
my ears.
Morbid Angel out here catching
I
strays.
think I understand what you're saying, Jason, because my initial impression of Labrie, like when I first heard him, I think I had kind of a similar, not exactly what you're talking about, but I understand what you're saying. Like his vocal style is very specific, and if you're not into it, you're just not gonna like it.
And look, there's a lot of hair bands from the '80s and old style heavy metal that sang the same way that I didn't like.
Yeah.
And look, the fact that I finally came around on a band like Judas Priest is testament that I'm not
totally different. It's totally different.
I'm not a complete jack, but I'm just saying, like, it's
What
just
I'm
not.
saying is you could change out James Labrie for David Lee Roth, and you would feel the same about this band.
I'm just not even going to address what you're saying because I just don't even want to give credence to it. Anyway, my MVP, I would say is a tie. I think Labrie's vocals here might be a hot take, but I think Labrie's vocals here might be his best performance on record. And I would say I'm tied with Kevin Moore. I think Kevin Moore as a keyboardist or pianist is he has a more subdued writing style than Jordan Rudess. But I think it's really intelligent. I think he adds a really I think he was very integral to the early Dream Theater sound that they had. And that's not a slight against Rudess. Like I said, we just saw him live. I mean, Jordan is an amazing pianist. Like he and what he does on future records, like his dueling interplay with Petrucci is awesome. But I think Moore just, I don't know, he just has that, he has a really good ear for sound, and he was also a really heavy contributor with lyrics as well, contributing to I think 3 songs lyrically on this album. Like I said, and Kevin Moore's done some other projects as well. I think he mostly became like a studio keyboardist. He actually played keyboards on the Fates Warning album that we reviewed, A Pleasant Shade of Grey. He was the keyboardist on that, the session keyboardist there. So, but yeah, so I would say it's co-MVP. If I had to pick, I guess I would say Labrie, but I think Moore deserves some recognition as well.
All right, Dave, give it to... go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. I was just going to add, I agree with everything you just said, Dave, especially in some of the songs like The Mirror and Lie, that I think it's like the bridge / interlude section somewhere in the middle where it's like, I'm not going to try to hum the tune, but it's a super iconic keyboard line that he plays, and it's got like kind of a spooky vibe to it. That's one of my favorite parts of the whole album.
Yeah, and I know Erotomania is probably not going to be a lot of people's pick, but I think the intro keyboard like bars are like really like memorable for me, like that.
Yeah, he uses an organ synth really effectively on this album.
Yeah. Anyway, I digress. What were you saying, Josh? I'm sorry.
I was just saying, let's get into the album title and the album art. What would you score it?
I actually, historically, I don't think Dream Theater is very good at album art. I think they make very good prog metal album art where you look at it and you're like, oh, it's prog metal. Okay, yeah, that's accurate. I've always liked the album title. Like I've always liked the album title Awake. Because I think it's a good play into their band name. And I don't know if that was the intention, but I've always liked that. Because it almost feels like this is them coming out of their shell, like they're awake. And, you know, it's a heavier album. So I really like the album title. I would give it like a solid 8 out of 10. the album cover, while for me it's like nostalgic, objectively, like I'm sure it's some type of Mindscape type, just obscure.
They're all, everything on there is references to songs on the album.
Yeah, so you got the
So,
mirror. So, I
you
mean,
know,
like,
spider web.
it's
It's
like
just kind of randomly thrown on there.
Yeah.
it's very artsy and stuff, and like I think I will be generous and give it a 5, and that's probably my bias bleeding in a little bit there.
Yeah, I had the same score on the album art. It's a 5 for me. It just looks like somebody sat down in front of a computer and it's just like boop 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 boop. All right, let's go. Album title though, I do like just the play with the band Dream Theater and the song being called, or the album being called Awake. So for that, I gave it a 9. Jason, what'd you have?
I gave the cover art a 4. Sorry, a 4 on the cover art. I agree with you guys. I mean, it's just kind of cut and pasted. I gave the title a 6. I guess if the album did more for me, like I'm extremely envious of Josh. Like the fact that he's had this big awakening for a band that he never really gave too much to. I wish I was in your shoes. I'm just not. So I gave it a 6.
What if the album was called Asleep? What would you score it?
It'd be more on brand, so it'd probably be about an 8.
Yeah. Nice. Jonah, what you got?
Same thing for the album art. Everything you guys talked about. It's a 5, and I gave the title a 7.5.
All right. What are your top tracks, Jonah?
So I had some difficulty with this because I really liked a lot of these tracks. Some of them grew on me as time went on as well. So I ended up my number 3, Lifting Shadow Off a Dream. Super solid track. That's one of the ones that really grew on me. Generally speaking, whenever we do a metal album, the slower songs are a slower burn for me. But I love that song. Number 2 is Caught in a Web. Contrary to everything that Jason said, I love the vocals on that song, and the chorus gets stuck in my head all the time. I love the harmonizing. I love the harmonizing and everything. So that's my number 2. And then number 1 for me has got to be The Mirror. I've heard it live. That song is the jam of the album. I almost did a double number 1 because The Mirror and Lie are like kind of part 1 and part 2. Lie is like an offshoot of The Mirror, but they decided to make it a separate song. But
I really strong enough on its own.
Yeah, I really like Lifting Shadow of a Dream and Caught in the Web, so it didn't make the top 3 for me. So it's going to be those 3. But the Lie is my honorable mention. I didn't say that before, but.
Mm-hmm. I'll go here. I cheated all over this thing here. So I got 2 honorable mentions. I got Lifting Shadows Off a Dream. Jonah, I agree with you. And I have Innocence Faded. Love the vocal melodies on the chorus and that. I think that's a very, very bright moment for James LaBrie. I got Caught in a Web, Jonah as well at number 3 for me. Number 2 for me, man, this is one that grew on me over time. Scarred, longest song on the record, I believe. Just a journey, man. What a good song. And then Jonah, you were almost smart enough to do it, but I did it. I have The Mirror / Lie as my number 1 song because it's one song. It
really is.
I often do not advocate for making songs longer. This is one of those moments where James LaBrie should have shut the hell up.
So even live when we saw it, they added the back half of Lie, like the solo of Lie, onto The Mirror. So
I thought it sounded familiar.
So they do include it. And Josh, I will go next because I also, spoiler, that is also my number 1. I'm going in the wrong order, but I just wanted to make that segue. The Mirror Lie is my number 1, and I do combine it traditionally. Like, it's one song. Like, it goes right after each other. Like the riffs. Perfectly. Yeah. Like it's not just like, oh, it's meant to be, like, it's literally meant to be one song. But it's weird how Lie was the lead single. Like, without
that
Mirror.
is weird.
But anyway, so I'll start from the back half. My honorable mention is 6 o'clock or 6. I think it's 6 o'clock. I mean, the song says 6 o'clock. And look, I know it's cheesy and corny, but dude, the opening, like 6 o'clock on a Christmas morning, dude, that shit's so like I get hyped every time that part comes on because, like I said, it starts the record, and I know Jason hates it, but then Labrie comes in, he goes 6 o'clock, and the clock was ticking or whatever he says. That shit. Jason's already ruined this monetization, so that shit just hits so good. So that's my honorable mention. So my number 3 is going to be Scarred. Great song. Love the track. Josh, you were very close there. My number 2 is Innocence Faded. I love that song. Also, I just want to go ahead and throw this out there. Giona, you're 100% right. Caught in a Web is an amazing chorus. It's not in my tracks, but I mean, it could easily be. But yeah, Innocence Faded is my number 2. I love that song. The chorus is so good. And then obviously my number 1 is The Mirror Lie. So it's The Mirror is what is like the original starter for Mike Portnoy's 12-Step Suite, which is his battle with alcoholism. And you can actually hear, as we go through some of these records, The Mirror has a lot of riffs and lyrics that they have kept through. Like Glass Prison has a section that's from The Mirror, as well as other tracks that are in this 12-Step Suite. Like This Dying Soul has some parts in here as well. Because I think in this song he says, "Hello Mirror, so glad to see you," which he's used in other songs as well. So anyway, yeah, so
nice. So, Jason, do you have more than one song, or are you just giving like your top song here?
Actually, I do have an honorable mention.
Oh.
Yeah. And for me, listen, again, I'm not saying anything just to poo-poo this record, okay? But for me, the album actually starts with Voices. So I'm going to give honorable mention to Voices.
Okay.
And apparently, I do know some of these songs that are good because they're pretty much on point with everything that you guys have said. My number 3 is The Mirror. Chuggy, super great riffs all through that song. My number 2 is probably my most shocking because it's by no means, I don't even know why I like it, but I do. And that'd be Lifting Shadows off a Dream.
I'll tell you why you like it.
Because it's a great song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And my number 1, and honestly, this is it's basically tied with Lifting Shadows Off a Dream. I gave it the same score, but by the narrowest of margins of Waking Up Today versus Waking Up Tomorrow, my number 1 song is Lie.
Yep. Solid choice. All right. Well, hey, our next segment here, this is where we like to cut the album down to 8 songs. We know in the metal world, the best albums only have 8 songs on them. So this is where we like to cut it down to 8. So there's 11 songs on this album. We got to cut 3 off of here. Jason, I just feel like you're chomping at the bit here to go on this one. So
he already said the album starts with Voices, so he already cut 4.
Exactly. So, I mean, I could cut the first 4 fairly easy.
I never want to be in a car ride with Jason listening to music.
I'm going to cut the first 3 songs. Wow. Give me the instrumental, and then let the actual album start.
Oh my God! What a terrible take.
I'm gonna go. I'll go.
Oh, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go next just because it's funny. Jason, I'm almost going to agree with you because I think 2 of the first 3 songs are cuttable. Not that they're bad. I don't share the same sentiment there, but just based on the way I scored and how I enjoyed this album personally, my number 3 cut is going to be 6 o'clock. My number 2 cut is going to be Innocence Faded, and the song I scored lowest, again, not a bad song, is The Silent Man.
What? Did you?
They're not bad songs.
Album, John?
They're not bad songs. Okay, this is a great album, but the way I scored and the way I enjoyed these songs, for this 1 week that I had with them, those were my 3 lowest scored songs.
Ugh. Oh my god! All right, look, for me there were 2 gimmies, 2 easy cuts. Aerodemania, look, it's fine. It's a good instrumental. I do find it enjoyable, but I would rather listen to songs with words. And James LaBrie, the MVP of the record for me. So look, it's not bad by any means. In the grand landscape of instrumentals, it's very good. The easiest cut on this album for me, hands down, bar none, is Space Divest.
Knew it.
Look, it's the song is okay. Would I skip it? Yes, 1,000,000%. I would skip it every single time, but it's fine. The last song was really the hardest one for me, and I don't agree with this whatsoever. I think this is a terrible take on my part. But
You had to pick another one.
I had to pick one, and it's got to be 6 o'clock. And look, I'm not proud of myself for picking that. I'm really not. But it was between that and The Silent Man, and I just couldn't cut The Silent Man.
All right, so I cut The Silent Man. I did cut Erotomania because in the purposes of this segment, it was an outlier for me. Let me just preface this by saying, if you're confused about this, I listened to this album from start to finish, but the album finishes with Scarred. I've never liked Space Divest. I don't know why that song has so many. It has the most listens of any song on this record on Spotify by a lot, and I have no idea why. Fans
a lot of Kevin Moore fans, I guess.
Fans talk about this song. Dream Theater fans talk about this song with like the highest regard in the entire world, like forever. And I've never understood it. Like, I've never been into this song. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's bad or whatever, but I don't like it, and I've never got it. Like, it's a complete whatever banger for me. Like, it's just like after Scarred finishes. Like, honestly, because I've been listening to this record for so long, I have forgotten what that song even sounds like. Like, I had to, like, when I listened to it recently for purposes of this, it was probably the first time I heard this song in like 8 years. It's not a song I'm probably ever really going to listen to again. But people love it, but it was the easiest cut for me. So, yeah, Josh, I did cut The Silent Man. I think 6 o'clock is a banger opener. It's got a goofy intro, but yeah, I love it because but I know it's not for everybody.
Look, I didn't want to cut it, so I don't disagree with you. All right, hey, we're going into the final category here. This is where we like to give our score for the record. And just to give you guys some context, for a lot of folks out there, a 7 would be an average score for them. Well, for us, it's a 5. So if we give it an album, anything that's a 4.9 and below, that's various levels of we would not recommend that record. Anything 5 and above is various levels of we would recommend it. And anything between a 9 and a 10 is like an all-time classic. As per the usual here, we're going to try to go from low to high based on my predictions.
I don't know who's going first.
This is a tough one this week to start. Jonah, why don't you go second, and let me go ahead and have Jason go first.
Yeah.
All right. Look, again, I wish my mind would just open up one day when I hit play on a dream. And it's, look, and I mean,
find the right
I mean this,
or the album or something.
I mean this with all sincerity. Like, I would love nothing more than to hit play one time and just have my brain explode from whatever experience I get from the next Dream Theater album. But until that, these are all going to be pretty much in the same. Again, extremely talented band, top to bottom. Whether or not I particularly like certain aspects of it or not, I'm not going to just sit here and poo-poo their talent. Extraordinary talent. But again, it's not my cup of tea, but it's obviously somebody else's. And so I'm going to give it a 6 flat.
Hey, that's better than I thought. Yeah. Jonah, go ahead.
So I said up front that this album grew on me, and I think it will continue to grow on me. So the score that I'm about to give is not reflective of probably what it deserves. It's just how I felt about it after listening to it for only a week. The band is super talented. This is a really good album. Great album, I would say. I ended up floating around back and forth a bit, but I'm going to land at an 8.1.
All right.
Damn, that's a good score for Jonah.
Yeah, it is.
All right. So I struggled a lot between this and Images and Words on what I liked better. So I got a chance, since I was taking a plane flight recently, I got a chance to re-listen to Images and Words again, just so I could kind of get a feeling for what I really liked. And in the end, it doesn't even matter. But I still went ahead with this album as being slightly worse, or just not as good as Images and Words for me right now. I think the fact that it's 11 songs hurts, because Images is 8 songs. It's perfect. There's not a cuttable track on Images and Words. And while not just because there's 11 tracks on this one, but because Space Divest is literally a skippable, cuttable song, and it's the album closer, which, as you know, irks me, to end the album on your worst song. It just hurts my heart. I'm only going to give this a slight ding for that. So when I started with Images and Words, I think I started in like a low 8, and then over the years with it now, I've gone up to I believe a 9 flat on that album as being my overall score for it.
Yeah.
And that's probably too low. I'm actually going to take this opportunity right now to just up that to a 9.2.
Okay.
That album is unbelievable. It's so good. I just can't get there with this record yet. Maybe over time I can. I'm at an 8.9.
Now, when you were taxiing down the runway, you hit play. Did the album end by the time you actually landed on the other side of the continent?
Well, when I woke up in Houston, I was on the 4th track still. I was on Aeromania, and I was like, oh, man, here we go.
Yeah.
Y'all are dumb as hell. I fucking hate y'all. So, I mean, look, I can already say the words, so might as well.
Like, I mean it too. I mean it with all my heart.
Yeah. Look, I love this record. It's a top 5, top 4 Dream Theater album for me. I do obviously have the benefit of having 2 decades with it, so that definitely helps. That's an understatement of the century, but I've always loved this record, and I think this is like peak Dream Theater. So it's no surprise that I come in with a 9.2. While I've never liked Space Divest, that's really been the only track that I've kind of just like forgotten about over the years, much to the sacrilege, I guess, of the Dream Theater fandom. But yeah, I just stop after Scarred, and it's fine with me. 9.2. Love this record. There's only a handful of other Dream Theater records that I would put above this. But this is top tier prog metal for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, hey, if you guys all go ahead.
I forgot. I segued for you, but then I didn't tell you what the average score was. My bad.
Oh yeah. My bad.
We're unprofessional. Sorry. Overall, that ends with an 8.05. Very high score. That's an A tier record for us. And what we would consider an 8 is called. We would say it's very good. Strong recommend. Album scoring 8 are highly enjoyable, well crafted with some impressive songs or unique elements. They might not reach the transcendent level of a 9 or 10, but they're excellent and come highly recommended for fans. Yeah.
I mean, look, I think for 3 of us, that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, if you guys also want to poo-poo this video, then go ahead and hit the like, hit the subscribe.
The way he says that was so funny.
Content. I know. We're putting out weekly metal content right now. We got metal reactions, metal reviews, metal time machines, metal brackets, and all kinds of other cool shit since we've already ruined the monetization. And hey, in the meantime, live long and prosper.
Caught in a web. All right. Take it easy, everybody.
Song stuck in my head.
That's good.
Peace.